Welcome back, everybody. Today, I want to talk about a knife, more of a style of knife that I could really care less about. That's right, these OTF knives. They seem to have gotten extremely popular recently, and I see them a lot everywhere. And I really just don't care for them. They're cool to fidget with, they're cool to play with, but for a everyday carry and a practical usage standpoint, I don't really care for these types of knives. Now, granted, this is a I believe a pretty cheap OTF knife. This was a gift to me, and I just want to run over some of the things that I have issues with these styles of knife. And to start off with first, uh, is that the thumb levers on these, I guess depending on the brand and you know how much you break yours in, these can be pretty stiff, and it can be kind of cumbersome to run your thumb to get it to activate. Especially if you're sweaty or not paying attention, it's real easy to miss your activation switch to get these to work. The other thing I will say is I actually kind of like the grip on it. The thing I do like is the grip. It feels nice in my hand. However, the caveat to that is I feel like the grip to blade ratio is pretty off. It's a real thin, skinny blade, and it's not very long when you compare it to the actual handle of the knife itself. So one of my big issues with it is like for a utilitarian purpose of like actually functioning and using it just doesn't have much mass to get work done. Again, this may be you may have different usage than what I'm using it for, and so that's kind of a concern. Next for me is just there's a lot more bits and pieces in here that get this knife to function. And so, with more moving parts, there's more susceptibility to things wearing out, things breaking, and having to replace parts. Also, another part of that is I really don't like how there's a lot of play in this knife. And when this seats, there's play in that blade. And so that's something I don't like. I like a real nice, true, high tolerance fit when I'm in the lock position. So this bugs me a little bit, not having this tighter. The other big concern I have is, if the blade is impeded at all, it will not lock. So like if I run it up against my mat here, this blade is loose now, and it pretty much becomes inoperable. And what you have to do is carefully grab it here and lock it in the out position, and then you're ready to roll. So that's another concern of mine is if you don't deploy it correctly, it becomes non-functional. Not a big deal to fix, but just something to think about. One thing with this knife is it does have a glass breaker on it, so that's cool. Multifunctional, which I like. But besides that, it's fun to play with. I've already clicked it around a lot in just this video. Kind of mesmerizing and fun. But from a utilitarian standpoint, it just doesn't fit the bill for me. This is a little Kershaw knife, pretty cheap. This was a gift as well. And you can see these are relatively the same size. And with this knife, I get a much bigger blade, more sizable blade, sturdier blade as well. I have a better tolerance. This blade isn't wiggling around. I've got, an interlock, frame lock on this knife. Locks it up, keeps it secure. Maybe there's a little bit better clip on this one, but overall, similar length. You know, this is a little bit wider. This Kershaw is a little bit thinner, kind of like that. And they're about similar in weight. The Kershaw feels maybe a hair lighter, a little bit lighter. And then the big deal is, you know, guys are like, oh, well, you know, your blade goes out super quick. Well, tell me that you can't tell the difference between these two going out at the same time. I mean, it's almost identical. There's no real speed difference when you have a flipper blade like this. So most of the time, I'm going to be carrying a blade like this. I just find this to be more useful, more practical, and maybe even a little safer than one of these. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know what you guys think about OTFs and what are some of the OTF brands that you guys like. Let me know in the comments.